Hi, this is Marty Maynard. This is my capstone project. We're going to be talking about sidewalk defects. During the video, we're going to be looking at the risk to a municipality. We're going to see what the Town of Windsor has done, and we're going to look at one option for repairing sidewalk defects. This is not the only option, but it is one option that has worked for the Town of Windsor. With me is Tom Gerard, Managing Partner with Howden Ludorf. Howden Ludorf provides defense for municipalities and has been specializing in municipalities for a number of years. Tom, what are the issues with sidewalks for municipalities, and is it an issue?
Oh, it's a very serious issue, Marty. Issues associated with sidewalks arise in a number of different ways, particularly because there is a law that allows a suit against a municipality anytime the sidewalk has a defect in it. And the defects can arise in many ways, especially in a place like New England, where we have the freeze and thaw cycles. Many times you'll have a what we call a toe trip on a sidewalk, where one slab is elevated at a different level than the slab adjacent to it. Sometimes that also arises because the base of a certain slab washes out and it causes a sinking of a certain slab. And anytime you have that difference in elevation, you have what we call a toe trip, and that's a very, very serious issue, because injuries can happen in many, many, many different ways, and they differ in all kinds of severity as well.
What is the difference in the toe trip that we should be concerned with? Is it an eighth of an inch, a quarter of an inch?
Well, that's an issue that's debated often in the courts. There are engineers that testify on behalf of both sides in many cases. There are some engineers that say even a difference in elevation of a half inch is enough to make a sidewalk defective, because what the engineers say is that the average person, as they walk along, they give themselves about a quarter to 3/8 of an inch of clearance on the surface they're walking. And so if you have a half-inch toe trip, you're liable to catch your toe and then to fall forward. There are many other engineers who will testify that a half-inch toe trip is fine. That's easily navigable by the average person. When you get to 1 inch as a difference in elevation, now you're in the area where it's defective.
And how much can it cost a municipality?
Well, it's a very, very serious and significant exposure to a municipality to have a toe trip. Injuries happen to all parts of the body. There is no limit under Connecticut law as to what the most is a person could recover. So we have seen injuries to hands, broken wrists, broken arms. We've seen broken ankles, twisted ankles. We've seen torn ligaments, all kinds of facial injuries. We see broken teeth, broken noses. I've had cases involving concussion, claimed traumatic brain injury. And like I say, if the town is on notice of a specific defect, the town can lose. So notice happens in a number of different ways. You can have notice because the neighbor has called up and said there's a problem with the sidewalk. That doesn't happen that often, but it can happen. There's also a rule in Connecticut whereby if a defect has existed for a long enough period of time so that the town should have discovered it and remedied it, then the town will be deemed to have constructive notice, and a lawsuit can succeed under those circumstances. And this applies even though the town might have an ordinance, and many towns do, that put the responsibility for maintaining sidewalks on the abutting landowners. What the courts have said is that even though it's the abutting landowner's duty to maintain and repair the sidewalks as they need it, if someone gets hurt, it's not the abutting landowner that will pay the damages. The town is always responsible for the damages that are owed to someone who falls. So, and once again, we're in the jury system, and we have 6 strangers picked on our juries who will listen to a case and they'll decide it. And we've had some very, very serious verdicts. Recently, there was a case where a woman tripped on a sidewalk, broke her wrist. She was treated, and she had a pretty good recovery, but the jury awarded $700,000 as the verdict. And so it's an issue of real significance to the towns. The best way to handle this for the towns, have a proactive inspection program. Find the tow trips, find the differences in elevation before someone gets hurt, and have a program to remedy them.
Today we're here with Bob Jarvis, town engineer, and Glenn Casano, construction inspector. We're here to talk about sidewalks and sidewalk defects. Bob, how many miles of sidewalks do we have here in the town of Windsor?
Marty, we have about 84 miles of sidewalk, and of that 84 miles, about 68 miles of it are concrete sidewalks, and the remaining 16 miles or so are bituminous concrete sidewalks.
Glenn, you're the construction inspector. Do you do an inspection of all the sidewalks on an annual basis, or is it a periodic inspection?
Marty, I do an annual inspection of every sidewalk in the town of Windsor.
How long have you been with the town?
I've been with the town 30 years.
And in this role as construction inspector?
10 years.
10 years. So you've been doing the same inspection for the last 10 years?
That's correct, every sidewalk in town.
And how do you prioritize those inspections?
Well, here in Windsor, the most important sidewalks are within 1 mile of any school. So within a 1 mile radius of schools is where we that would be our priority, our main priority.
Thank you. Bob, getting back to you for a second, what's your annual budget for sidewalks and sidewalk repair?
Currently, our annual budget is $50,000, Marty. Now, it's taken some hits recently with the success or failure of our local budgets. It was reduced to zero a few years ago, and we've been working our way back up to about $50,000 currently. About 30% of our budget, of our sidewalk budget, is attributed or allocated toward mud jacking. As Glenn mentioned, the other 70% is the partial replacement of the sidewalk itself, the replacement of the concrete slabs.
Glenn, there's other ways of going about the repair of sidewalk defects, as you well know. There's grinding and then there is the full replacement. What's the advantages of using mud jacking?
Well, cost is always going to be an issue, especially with a tight budget. But I think if you look at the cross-section of a sidewalk over time, if you're trying to get a 5-inch or an 8-inch sidewalk, depending on the location, mud jacking will always maintain that cross-section. You'll always have a consistent depth. I think grinding and cutting of sidewalks, you actually make the sidewalk thinner. The cross-section changes, and over time, if need be, I can mud jack sidewalks 2 or 3 times over a 10-year period if there's tree roots and things like that. But I don't believe you can continually grind or cut sidewalks, and you certainly can't maintain the cross-section over that same period of time. So we tend to lean towards the structural integrity, the side of the coin. So we will mud jack sidewalks, even though we have explored cutting and grinding.
I think it's about $3.75 a square foot for mud jacking a sidewalk, where it's $9.50 a square foot for the replacement of a slab. So if there's no significant structural defects, as Glenn mentioned, the cracking, spalling, if it's simply a misalignment of the slabs, mud jacking is a much more economical solution to that. It allows us to spend time fixing trip hazards and matters that would impact the public much more cost effectively, allowing us to use the remainder of our funding to address those sidewalk areas which are in deeper need of repair.
What about time? Does it take longer to mud jack, or is it a shorter amount of time for the replacement of that section?
It's a much shorter period of time. If we were to replace every sidewalk that can be repaired through mud jacking, I think the phone would be ringing off the hook. I think getting the sidewalk back into use, getting it open safely, making it safe, we have to do it as fast as possible. If there's no other way, certainly, then we'll have to shut down the walk, dig it out, and build a new sidewalk. But if we can do it through mud jacking, we can do it usually in one day, and the sidewalk is back in service within a few hours.
Yeah, basically what we do is we offer the town concrete raising, and what we basically do is we come out and drill a series of holes, we pump a slurry cement mix underneath that, fill the voids and the cavities, raise the slab, eliminate the tripping, for a third of the cost of replacing.
I see everything's contained, or seems to be contained in one or two vehicles. Is that the way
Yeah.
you come out?
Yeah, we're self-contained. We carry our own equipment, our own water. Everything's a dry mix until we're ready to pour, and then we only mix what we need. And then we can service the customer that way without depending on anybody in town. Basically, our pump pumps 175 pounds of pressure, and it's a slurry cement mix. Once it's hardens about 1,300 psi. Basically, what we've done is we raise the slab, void fill the area, like back to soil. Once it hardens, you like drain it back to soil. There's nothing wrong with the sidewalk. In this situation, it was a tree that needs the sidewalk, so there's a void in it. Once we raise that and level it off, we now void fill it, and the soil is back there. About 1,300 psi.
I happen to notice there were some holes in here before. Do you know when approximately you were here?
We did these sidewalks about 8 years ago because of the tree situation. The tree are still continuing to grow. So now we are back out about after 8 years. We're going to be re-leveling these slabs versus having to demo all of these sidewalks, remove all the existing trees. And that's very expensive for a time. You walk on the sidewalk in about 10 minutes. And it doesn't stop anything. Versus if you were jackhammering the slab out, the sidewalk would be off. People would be walking in the streets, and you'd have a safety issue.
How long have you done work with the Town of Windsor?
We've been with the town over 25 years.
25 years. How many towns do you service?
We service about 26 towns.
CRC, our contractor, did a wonderful job leveling off our sidewalk. This was the section that they did 2 weeks ago, and it looks great. It's even, it's smooth, and it's fine. Again, mud jacking is one option. It's one alternative. There are other ways to alleviate and to take care of the sidewalk defects, such as grinding and/or full replacement. We have found, though, in Windsor that mud jacking is a cost benefit to us, and is certainly an efficient way to have it done within a one-day period.